Okay, here we are for quiz number 9, talking about bass guitars and electric guitar amps and that sort of thing. A lot of the fun stuff that I like. The first is bass. We have done probably a couple projects where we record the bass directly through a direct injection or a DI box. Either that preamp there kind of works as the DI, or we got one of the boxes out of there and hooked it right in. You do not always need to do that, right? That gives us a lot of flexibility. We can reamp it. We can send it back through a real live amp. We can use a amp simulator. We can distort it just using a plug-in. It's sort of the raw data that then we can play with. But you don't always have to do that. Again, like I was just talking about in the last lecture, something like a jazz trio. You don't really want the DI of the bass probably as much as you'd like to mic up their amp, or if it's an acoustic bass, mic up the bass. Heavy metal, some hard rock, people really like the sound of their tube amplifier, or if they've got a special setting that they have dialed in, or their pedal board, right? And so all of that stuff, you might choose to mic up their amplifier instead of using the DI. But the other thing is you might mic their amplifier and take a DI straight from their pedal board or out of their amplifier. Which brings us to question number 2. So the thing with that, if you're going to have 2 inputs, right, using 2 different microphones or a DI and a microphone, that's a very common thing, but you need to watch out because on bass, particularly with the long wavelengths that we're dealing with, they can easily get out of phase, and it softens the bass. It doesn't. It robs it of some of its power. So you want to make sure that it is in phase. Any multiple signals you're using from the bass. So let's see if I can put that back into how to answer that question. So you need to check phase on the bass if you are using more than one microphone. Yeah. Or input. Yeah. Okay, back to the SM57. We talked about that recently too, and I'm going to suggest that that's the go-to standard on guitar amplifiers. There are lots of other techniques where we're using different microphones or different placements, but the conventional wisdom, what I want you to know, what I want you to default to, I suppose, is if you've got an electric guitarist with an amplifier and an SM57, pick one of the speaker cones and put the SM57 very close to that speaker cone. Yeah, and so that's all. Where we put it on is going to determine kind of the frequency range. This is the I'm sure we did 3 microphones on the same amplifier, if not on the same speaker, right? Directly in the middle, that is on axis, and that is the most direct, the loudest, but it can be very fatiguing. You can get a lot of mid-range from that, right? Off axis, right, if we pull it over to the side of the cone, that's going to darken the sound. It's going to make it a little smoother, a little less fatiguing. Okay. Now the other thing is you could go behind the speaker and mic it from behind. Now that's going to give you a much darker tone, but as you can see, if we had one mic in the front and one in the back, those are necessarily out of phase. So flipping the phase on those is probably going to make it sound better. And we can dig into exactly the distances and how far and whatnot of that later. But there you go. All right. Thanks, and Good luck.